discusses basketball, it gets asked a question about who you're choosing between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. They're, saying that we understand that it's generational, answering that kind of a question. But John Starks goes into explaining why it shouldn't be generational and why actually LeBron James shouldn't be in the conversation. And the conversation should really be had between Michael Jordan.
John Starks just said something the LeBron fan base is absolutely not going to handle well. Not that Jordan beats LeBron. Not that it is close. That LeBron should not be in the GOAT conversation at all. That the real debate, the one worth having, is between Michael Jordan and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And LeBron James is not sitting at that table. Before anything else, understand who is saying this. This is not a blogger. This is not a podcast host who studied Jordan through YouTube highlights. This is a man who played against Michael Jordan in playoff series with championships on the line, who looked at Jordan from the other side of the floor and spent entire film sessions trying to find one mistake, one crack in the armor, one moment where the situation got too big, and Jordan showed something human. He could not find it.
Crucial free throws missed by Cartwright, and the Knicks lead remains at 3. We're down to 50 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Starks, yes! What a move by Starks, who was able to sky to the basket. The Bulls call for time.
That is the entire context behind everything Starks said on The Breakfast Club. He was not throwing out a hot take for attention or trying to create a viral moment. He was speaking from a place that almost nobody currently in the GOAT conversation has any real access to. He played against Jordan in high-stakes playoff games. He watched the film afterward trying to find the mistake. He felt from the floor what it was actually like to guard someone performing at that level when everything was on the line. And his conclusion after all of that first-hand experience is that LeBron James should not even be part of the same discussion. The question is not whether Starks is right or wrong. The real question is whether someone who was physically on the court trying to stop Michael Jordan carries more weight than someone who watched the same games through a screen. Because that is the gap between where Starks is coming from and where most of this debate currently lives. Starks is not asking you to take his word for it because he said it convincingly. He is asking you to consider that the people who are on the floor have a different kind of knowing than everyone else in this debate.
Michael Jordan. Yeah. You've been watching LeBron.
Yeah.
Who is the GOAT when it comes to basketball and why?
Do I really have to answer that?
Absolutely.
Do you hate that
because
question?
it's a generational question.
I know.
It's a generational question, right? The younger generation is always going to say
I'm going to say
LeBron.
Jordan. I'm going to say Jordan. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. When you play against somebody that did things that, like, how can this man be on all the time? We didn't see LeBron, and LeBron is great. Don't get me wrong.
Should I really have to answer this? That reaction before he even gave the answer told you everything about where Stark stands on this question. He did not search for an answer. He did not pause to weigh the arguments. The question almost felt unnecessary to him because from where he was standing the answer had always been obvious. I am going to say Jordan. Not, I think Jordan. Not in my opinion Jordan. Just Jordan. When he explained why he went back to the same place every player who competed against Jordan eventually goes. How can this man be on all the time? Not the scoring average, not the athleticism. The complete and total inability to find a single moment across an entire career where he was not locked in completely at the highest possible level. That is the specific thing that separated Jordan from every other player who has ever picked up a basketball. And the reason that quality matters more than any single stat is because the GOAT conversation is ultimately about consistency at the absolute peak, when the absolute most is required.
I don't think it's soft. I think it just has evolved into more of an offensive scoring game. It's not as physical because you don't have that big man that we had back in the day. Every team had 7-footers, low post players, all of that. And so we had to feed them. So in that lane was very congested. Mm-hmm. And so you had to fight your way in there just to score. Now everybody's spread out. Now it's just a drive and kick game. But as you can see during the playoffs, they going back to the old school rules. They let the hand check. Yeah. They letting things go that they normally don't let go during the regular season. And so
go out there and do your job. Starks had zero patience for the load management conversation, and he made the point that hits hardest when you sit with it for a second. If you were not getting paid, would you still play? For Jordan, the answer was never in question. For the players of that era, the answer was obvious. The game was the entire point, and showing up completely was the only acceptable option. Load management is a real and legitimate shift in how today's NBA operates. Rest science and injury prevention are genuine considerations for modern athletes. But the GOAT conversation does not accommodate conditions. It is about who showed up without excuses when the schedule was brutal, and the fatigue was real, and the stakes were at the absolute maximum. Jordan never needed managed rest. He never asked for it. He simply played every single game like it was the most important one of his career. That mentality is the one the GOAT conversation is ultimately built around, not the numbers, not the accolades. Whether you showed up completely every single time the game demanded it from you without exception. Jordan never asked for lighter nights. He never had a conversation about managing his minutes. He showed up at the maximum every time the arena filled up and the other team came ready to beat him.
He says Michael Jordan is the GOAT in his mind and in his opinion, and that Michael Jordan never made mistakes. This is not an opinion of somebody that watched the game or followed them live or a commentator or a journalist. This is a guy that played against Mike many games. And he's telling you every time he faced him, Mike was simply on. He didn't have a bad game. He never made mistakes. And he couldn't believe it even after watching film of the games that you just couldn't find a mistake that Michael Jordan made during a game.
6 times, 6 wins, 0 losses. That is the complete sentence when it comes to Jordan in the NBA Finals. No unhappy endings, no series where the other team got to hold the trophy, no appearance that requires context or explanation or careful framing to make sense of. LeBron has 4 wins and 6 losses. And the part the fan base genuinely does not want to sit with is this. Every one of those losses comes with context. The 2007 Cleveland run. The 2011 series with Miami, each one has an explanation that softens the raw numbers somewhat. But here is the problem with that argument. Jordan's legacy does not require context to understand. It just requires the record. And when the most important part of your GOAT case is that the losses were not really his fault, you are already operating in a completely different conversation than the one Jordan's legacy lives in entirely on its own. Jordan never needed that framing. The record speaks entirely by itself. 6 finals, 6 championships, 6 finals MVP awards, no explanations required. The LeBron case is built on volume and longevity and regular season dominance. All genuinely impressive, but the GOAT conversation has always been decided at the finals level. And at that level, the records tell 2 very different stories.
Dr. J was here last week,
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he disliked the flopping, the management, player management, where they rest the time.
Yeah,
So
load management.
Load management.
Yeah.
He said he disliked that. He said that.
I'm with them 100%.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They talking about shortening the season. Well, they go shorten your contract. Yeah, I don't want to do that. We can play 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
No, come on, man. You play 2.5 hours out the day. You got people grinding their hours, from the time they get up to the time they go to bed, trying to make a living.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just playing 2.5 hours, and so I don't believe in that. It just, you got a job to do, and your job is to go out there and play basketball. And if you weren't getting paid, would you still be doing it? Yes. So just go out there and do your job, man. That's what you get paid to do.
Unmerciful. That was the exact word Starks chose when asked what Jordan would look like in today's NBA. Not competitive, not impressive, unmerciful. The argument that Jordan's game would not translate to the modern era has always been one of the weakest parts of the anti-Jordan position. The modern NBA, with its spacing, 3-point emphasis, and isolation scoring, would not have reduced Jordan at all. It would have given him more room to operate, fewer hand-check fouls protecting the defenders guarding him, cleaner driving lanes than he ever had in the 90s. The man who physically guarded Jordan in playoff games is telling you it would have been unmerciful. Not that Jordan would have been good. Unmerciful. And the real debate, the one that actually holds up when you examine the evidence carefully, is Jordan versus Kareem, not Jordan versus LeBron. That is what Starks said. And from where he is coming from, it is not something you can simply wave away. That single word, Unmerciful, coming from a man who defended Jordan in playoff basketball, says more than any statistical argument ever could. So tell me, does LeBron belong in the GOAT conversation, or has that ship already sailed? Drop your honest answer in the comments right now. Like and subscribe for more, because this debate is never going away.